Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is TheMrHuntinNoobs, and I'm coming back at you with some more gameplay footage, aka sniper phase hunting noobs in the building. Get dig. This is some team deathmatch played on the Black Ops 2. Now, I'm not implying at all that I can snipe. If you guys can see right there, it is off. There's going to be some shots on here. I'm sure somebody's going to pick out how awful my aim or whatever it was. Again, in my defense, I don't snipe much. I decided to snipe here. I think what it is, I'm leveling up my snipers to get them diamond, and that's basically all it was. And it looks like that my score streaks are pretty high. So I'm assuming that these are the score streaks that I had set up for domination or something like that with a red gun, or I was being super ambitious, whatever the case may be. I definitely wouldn't do that again or recommend me putting on high streaks, but they definitely worked out for me. I think I get a kick-ass score of like 37 and 4, 34 and 7, I think is my final score. And also I clutched the shit out of the game. I mean, you guys will see that we are losing by, I think, 7 or 8, or maybe even 9 kills, and they're right at like 64, 65 kills. So they're just a few away from winning the game, and we're down by a ton, and I'm able to get all my streaks, and my streaks happen to go in, and we were able to turn the game around. And I'm never the player to say, hey, I won this game, but I can tell you right now, if I was not in this game, they would have absolutely got their shithole pushed in. They would have had no chance of winning this game. So my sniper came through. I pick up a couple quick scopes here and there, a couple nice shots, but for the most part, it's a lot of hard scoping and bad misses. But the gameplay is somewhat okay. I really don't put up sniper gameplay, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, please feel free to rate the video. What I want to talk to you guys real quick about, I guess it's somewhat of a spin-off of Through My Eyes and whatnot. It's doing quite well. It looks like I'll be putting up a Through My Eyes next week, because at this rate, I'll hit 1,000 views on it here really soon. I think it's like right at 800 or 900 views. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my father. I don't talk much about him. I briefly discussed him in my Through My Eyes, and I just want to tell you guys a little bit about him and whatnot, and kind of what I experienced with him. My dad was, in my opinion, somewhat of a selfish person. And if you guys have actually experienced this or have any questions or whatnot, or if you guys want to talk about this shit, man, by all means, private message me or whatnot. If you guys are going through some crazy shit or anything like that, I'm not here to be nobody's counselor or anything like that. But you know what? If you guys have any questions or you guys are experiencing shit, crazy shit like that, and what I'm going through, by all means, like I said, DM me and we can chat it out, man. Sometimes it's just good to talk to people about just anything. It's just good. So, anyways, my father, again, he was a selfish person, and I slowed this down real quick to show you how awful I am. Look how awful these guys are. AFK. And well, one of them's barely not AFK, and I eventually get the shot, and I get the nice little collateral headshot. But God, that was pathetic. I had to slow down to showcase how awful I am. But anyways, what I said before, my dad's a selfish person. What I mean by that, he was more into ripping and running the streets, and in the life, in the drug life, and the ripping and run streets. He had 2 kids at home, 3 if counting my brother. My brother was not officially his kid. He was my brother doesn't have a different father, but nonetheless, he was with my mother at the time. So if you're with a person that has children that are not yours, you're also taking on those responsibilities as well. My father decided not to. My dad, from what I remember of him, he was a very violent person. There's been times where I would come home from school, and one week he had my mother in a corner beating the absolute brakes off of her. The very next week I come home. It's funny. I come in from school. My dad has my mother in a corner. Just beating the absolute shit out of her. And my uncle was ushering my brother, my sister, myself up to our rooms to like, hey, just don't see this. And then the very next week, I come home and my father has my uncle in the corner beating the shit out of him, and my mother is ushering us to the room so we don't have to see that stuff. So my dad was a very violent guy. I'm not trying to make him out to be a bad guy, because I love my father to death, man. He's actually turned out, after he got out of the dumb shit, to be actually a pretty kick-ass person, man. But I'm just giving you guys pretty much a run-through of how it was when I remember growing up as a child. And I remember one time that he got busted. I don't know if he was stealing or something like that. My mother told me he was busted. He got caught stealing, and apparently he was walking a TV to the car. And I was sitting outside, and the officer told him, hey, put the TV down. My dad's like, no. The officer's like, hey, put the TV down. And my dad takes the TV and acts like he goes to put it down and throws it at the cop, hits him in chest, flips the cop over the fucking cop car and takes off running. I mean, my dad was a nut, dude. I remember one time my mother and my father they wasn't together at the time. They had a little split up or whatever. And we were living in the projects at the time. And the projects are just a bunch of apartments on top of each other, whatever. And we were on the lower level. And my dad comes up and we're taking a nap, right? It's nap time. And all of a sudden I hear this noise. And over the doorway coming through the back door, there was a little, I guess, a little roof, a little shelter, I guess, for the door. And he's climbing up it to climb in through the window. And there's a fan blocking the window, and he's trying to get in through the fan. He looks at me and says, hey, help me get the fan out. Well, as I was helping get the fan out, there's a 2x4 that held the window at a certain height so the fan wouldn't get crushed or whatever. So I grabbed a 2x4 to pull it out. And my mother comes running in at the time, screaming like, who the hell? And grabs this 2x4, hits my dad right between the fucking eyes and knocks him out of a one-story building onto the ground. I mean, this was pretty much some of the childhood memories that I have of my father. Now, as I got older, there really wasn't any because apparently he was working a job. My dad was a jack of all trades, right? He worked construction, hanging drywall, chemical cleaning. Well, there's no longer any chemical cleaning, sandblasting and shit like that. He pretty much could fix anything. And apparently one of the people that he was contracted to didn't pay him. And him and a friend of his stole, I believe, 98 sheets of drywall. Apparently that's a lot of money, and he got busted for it. Well, my dad's been busted on numerous occasions, and so they have a PFO. And a PFO is a persistent felony offender. And he was a PFO 1 because he's been busted for many felonies, from everything from writing checks to assault, whatever. And they decided he didn't want a PFO 1, which is a mandatory minimum of 10 years. So my dad was locked up for about 8.5 years for when I was just a small kid up to almost when I turned a teenager, a very young teenager, whatever. I mean, in and out, this and that and the other. I wouldn't visit him and this, not in and out, but I wouldn't visit him and whatnot through my family and shit like that. But for the most part, he was not there. So I was raised by, my mother's boyfriends, and I say boyfriends because it was that's a whole other story. So maybe I'll tell a story about my mother one day. Eventually he gets out, and I want to build a relationship with him. Like, I want to get to know this guy and this, that, and the other. He's been away for a long time, and I eventually move in with him. I felt like, my mother was holding me back. I was going through this rebellious stage that, my mother, even though she wasn't the most ideal mother when it comes to certain situations. She didn't really have our best interests at times. She was definitely a person that needed somebody. I really felt, now that I'm older and now that I know, and this commentary is probably going to go over, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. But it's just that I just felt like, my mother was not letting me do what I want, and my father would, and he was definitely being the guy that, hey, I wasn't around, so I don't want to be your father, but I want to be your friend, right? So I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. My dad let me smoke cigarettes, so this is what, at the time I thought that's what I wanted and what I needed. So pretty much my mother kicked me out of the house. And again, if you guys follow my Through My Eyes story, you guys know why she kicked me out. And again, maybe I'll do a story on my mother or whatever. But anyways, I moved in with my father, and it was probably the worst thing the idea I've ever had. Because my father let me rip and run. He let me do as I pleased. I was able to go out and hang out with the fellas and smoke weed, do acid and this and the other, and he knew of it and things of that nature. And I remember one time I came to hear that my dad was smoking crack, right? And he's buying it from my buddies and stuff like that. And I didn't really care too much at the time. I wasn't really in the game, so to speak. My buddies were. I was working at the time. I was just trying to prevent that from happening. I just wanted to do things the right way, I guess, for a time being. And then I would see some of the money they would make, and it was something that it would took me 2 weeks to make, and they would make in a half an hour. So that's eventually what got me into selling drugs. But anyways, I heard my dad was smoking crack, and then one day I was sitting down and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, he does. And he basically told me, hey, it's my life. I do whatever the fuck I want. Mind your own business. And I was like, cool. Well, being the person that he was, trying to be the friend, he was like, hey, I got an idea. You know I smoke crack, so I'm gonna go down and buy some crack. Won't you let me buy you a dime bag? Trying to justify it. And me being a kid at the time, I was like, yeah, man, hell yeah, give me a dime bag. Yeah, I'll throw this up in a blunt and I'll smoke it to the head. So we come back to the house, And I shit you not, I sit on one side of the bed, my dad sits on the other side of the bed, and I was maybe, fuck, I don't know, I was very young. I was very young, teenage years, and he's sitting there smoking crack out of a pipe, and I'm sitting there smoking a blunt to my head, and yeah, it was awful, man. Now that I think about it, it's awful, but that's just the lifestyle that that I was raised up in. It was okay. It was the norm. It was accepted. So eventually, I got into selling drugs and this and that, and my father, I sold crack to him. Now, some people consider me maybe an awful person to do such a thing, but I really didn't have feelings for him, right? I really didn't care. I was like, he's just my dad, right? He didn't. I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. I just felt like I'd rather get the money than somebody else get the money, right? So I guess I was a money whore then. Maybe it'll transfer into this YouTube shit. I don't know. I'm just joking, guys. But I don't know really what the case was. I just, my dad was actually one of my main customers, man. Like, my dad was what I call a made fiend, man. Like, I'd never seen anybody. If my dad was a dope dealer, he would probably be one of the biggest dope dealers ever, man. Like, I mean, the guy knew how to get money. He was a natural born hustler, man. And that's where I got a lot of my shit that how I guess my hustling attributes were from him, man. And he would just make money on top of money, but unfortunately he decided to smoke it all up. And again, like I said, he was one of my main customers, and I've told this story on Through My Eyes. I remember one time, man, that I walked into he called me up, and I go to the hotel, right? And I get inside the hotel, and he's got a couple people in there, and I look at him. He looks like shit, man, and he's real sweating really bad. And on his shirt, they all stunk, man. It just fucking reeked of crack. Crack has a smell to it, like burnt pipe and shit like that, like burnt metal and shit. So it smelled like burnt metal and sweaty ass, man, like it was nasty. And a bunch of dudes, man. So, and my dad, I remember he had this gray shirt on, and you saw the salt rings from the sweat, and it looked like the inner markings of a tree. You know how you tell how old a tree is? You got one ring, two rings, and that's how it went down his shirt. And I told my dad, I was like, "What the fuck is that on your shirt?" He said, "It's my calendar." This is so good. He said, "It's my calendar." And I was like, "Well, you mean my calendar?" He said, "Well, this sweat ring happened on Monday. This sweat ring happened on Tuesday. This sweat ring happened on Wednesday." So he's been up for like 5 days straight smoking crack, man. And he would do that all the time. I remember one time I was sitting down at the kitchen table, and he would put a rock on a pipe, and he would hit it. And this is how it sounds, too. And I could do it with my mouth because I've seen it done so much. That's how it sounds. It's because crack melts, and when you put fire on it, it's melting and burning, and it gives that sizzle sound to it. And he would hit this rock, and crack it's an upper, right? It's cocaine, so it brings you up. It's supposed to wake you up. And he would put the pipe down and fucking fall asleep right there on the spot, head tilted, snoring. I'm like, damn, son, like this dude. I mean, crack is an evil thing, man. Like it literally killed. Help. It was definitely a helping hand in the killing my father. As you guys that follow me Through My Eyes, he's no longer here. Anyways, I'll get to that in just a second. So, I remember one time for Father's Day. This is how shitty. This is how fucked up. I know this commentary is gonna be crazy long, and I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm just talking right now. I remember one time for Father's Day. I'm sitting down, and I'm breaking up probably about, if I remember correctly, it's about a quarter kilo of cocaine. It's roughly right around 8 to 9 ounces, I guess, depending on how big the hookup is. So 8 or 9 ounces, roughly right around $800 to $1,000 a piece. So I'm breaking down about $10,000 worth of crack, right? So I'm chopping this up, and as I'm breaking it off, I'm breaking it down basically. So I'm taking it from one rock, and I'm breaking it down to 50s and 100s and $200 pieces, $300 pieces, whatever. And you weigh it out, and 1 gram equals $100, or back then it did, so I don't know how it is now. But anyways, a piece broke off, and it's about a 50, so it's about 0.5 grams. It pops off and lands next to him at the table. He said, "Oh, thanks for the Father's Day present." I was like, and it was a big 50, man. And for you guys that don't know how crack is smoked, basically what they do, they get a 50, they break it down into little pieces, basically dime pieces or $15 pieces, and they smoke it that way. And I'm not trying to give you guys any type of instructional videos. I'm just telling you how it was. So the 50 goes over there, and I was like, "Come on, get the fuck out of here. I ain't giving you no 50. And I looked at him. I was like, "I'll tell you what, if you could put that on your pipe and hit it in one rip, you can have it." And I'm thinking, this is impossible. Like, I ain't never seen nobody put a 50 50, it was a 50 or 100. Anyways, this is a big chunk of rock, right? So this dude's like, man, I'm a professional. He throws that bitch on the glass dick, and that's what I called it, the glass dick. And he puts that bitch on his glass. He had a glass pipe at the time, so he puts it on the glass dick. One hit, he destroys it, and he just blows the smoke out. And I'll never forget it. He's like, hey, Larry. And I was like, what? He's like, answer the phone. I was like, we don't have a phone. He's like, well, something's ringing in my head. So basically what it is, apparently when they get high, you know, you get this ringing sensation or something. I've never smoked crack, so I wouldn't know. But apparently that's what it was. And that's always what the joke was when crackheads would smoke. It was like, wow, my bell just got rung, you know. And that was just, I guess, the lingo for it. So anyways, I'm kind of babbling on. I hope you guys don't mind this commentary. I really don't. And again, I'm just telling some of the stories I remember my father, right? And a lot of these stories are in Through My Eyes, guys. If you don't know what Through My Eyes is and you're new to my channel, the link will be in the description. I got the whole folder in one link for you guys. You can go back and watch it and check it out if you want. Whatever floats your boat. It's quite a long series, though. Just to give you a little heads up. So, anyways, fuck, where was that? Oh, so, my dad, him smoking, bell ringing and whatnot. So I told that story. I'll just go ahead and jump off into it. Eventually, my father got into doing pain pills. He got locked up. When I got locked up, he got locked up. He got off the crack cocaine and this, that, and the other. So when he got out, he started doing pain pills. He got hurt, fell off some steps, shattered his knee, got some pain pills, and eventually became addicted to them. And unfortunately became his demise because it's kind of what killed him. So anyways, he would do pain pills, and where I'm from, everybody's addicted to heroin, right? To get off of heroin, they call a drug called methadone. It's kind of what the government gives you to get you off of it, which I fucking hate. I just wish they would spend more money in drug rehabs and this, that, and the other than just giving you an alternative drug. So, but it's what the government does. It's another bullshit thing that the government does. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in, two wrongs don't make a right. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, you're able to get a hold of this methadone very easy, and it's not illegal. If you hold it if it's not prescribed to you and you have it, obviously it's illegal because it's a prescription drug or whatever. But, for the people to have it, it wasn't legal to have. So I'll never forget it. It was New Year's Eve. My father calls me up, or I call him. It's midnight, right? And this is about 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I don't know. And I called to wish him a Happy New Year's. And I could tell he's fucked up. He's slurring. When you take pain pills, pain pills a downer, right? It slows you down. And also methadone and heroin, it's a downer as well. So as I'm speaking to him, about 15 minutes into the conversation, he has no clue who I am. I mean, not a clue at all. And it pisses me off really bad. I'm like, Dad, dude, you're not a teenager anymore. You've already had a stroke. You're 50 plus years of age, my friend. Your body's not going to be able to take this punishment that you're doing to it, man, by doing this drugs and shit, And so I hung up on him, right? I was pissed. I was really pissed off because he didn't know who I was 15 minutes into the call. So the next morning I get a phone call, and it's my sister crying. She says, my dad's in a coma. So I'm thinking, no big deal. He's, I really didn't think nothing of it at first. And I was over at a friend's house. We were watching a soccer game. I think Uruguay versus Argentina, right? And I started crying, man. I don't know. It's like something told me, man, it was over. And to be honest with you guys, I never thought I would cry if I knew my father was in the situation he was in at the time, because he really wasn't much of a father. I didn't have that connection to him. I had more of a friendship connection to him. And so I'm over at my buddy's house, and they're trying to console me, condole. I don't know. They're trying to calm me down because I'm kind of hyperventilating. Like, it was the weirdest thing. It's like I knew, right? So I leave. I go home, tell my wife about it, and I said, I gotta go home. I gotta go to Kentucky, right? So I get in my car, and I'm making a 7-hour trip back home, and I'm a balling the whole way, man. Like, I had to stop a couple times because it was overwhelming. I was just crying too much, and I'm kind of getting lost of words. Anyways. So I'm crying. I cried a whole bunch as I'm driving down. I'm trying to look at the time of this video. You know what? Fuck it. However long it is however long it is. I don't care. So eventually I get there. My aunt is pretty much consoling me the whole way. She's like, I don't know if I'm saying the right word there. Again, I'm from Kentucky. Work with me, people. So my aunt's pretty much making sure that I'm all right. So I get home. I get to Kentucky. My father's in the hospital, right? He's in a coma. And when I walk in, there's a whole room full of people that I knew he was hanging out with the night before. So, of course, I flip my lid. I threaten to knock everybody's teeth out in the room. There's probably about 10 or 15 people. And I dare anybody to say anything. I dare anybody to say anything. Because I was fucking kicking ass right then. You know, and I know I joke around, talk all this shit sometimes. But, you know, I'm not one to brag, but I'm not the one you want to try when it comes to fighting. I really know what I boxed for years. I street fought for years. I'm trained to go. I mean, I can really take heads off. I got many knockouts under my belt. And I'm not here to brag or boast. It's just the fact of the matter is I'm trained to go. And I was ready to go right then. I was ready for anybody that's fucking. If one person would have kind of gave somewhat of a, or tried to have been somewhat defiant, I would have tried to beat everybody up in that fucking room. And I would have been teeing off on people left and right. Teeth would have been flying, and they would have been lucky because we were in the hospital. And I guarantee you, either we all would have been up in that motherfucker. Maybe all 15 would have beat my ass. But I'll tell you what, there would have been a couple of them that went with me. I tell you that. Anyways, that didn't happen, and they went on their way. And so I'm sitting there looking at my dad. I tell everybody to get out the room. And we had a moment, man. I was sitting there talking to him, right? And I'm letting him know that, hey, you know, I just let him know he's a piece of shit at the time. So I go through this like, hey, this is what you haven't done for me. This is what you never done for me. And this is what you're doing to me now type moment. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to get emotional or anything like that, guys. Don't worry about it. I mean, it is sad. You know, it does break my heart, you know, now rethinking this stuff. But and I just go through all these. I go through all these emotions with him. I just let him know, and I'm crying the whole time, you know. But at the end of it, I said, I forgive you. You know, this is what you know. This is what you just chose to do. This is your bid. You lie down in it, man. And no pun intended, because he was in a bid. But I guess I'm trying to make a joke out of something. And I basically make peace with him because I just know I don't want to hold any hateful thoughts or anything like that. So. Anyways, I had my moment, and then I invite just immediate friends and family back in. I tell everybody else that I didn't want to be there to leave. And I have a talk with the doctor. The doctor informs me that there's no brain activity. They're tapping on his eye. Apparently, they open up his eye, and they'll tap on his eye, and there was no activity at all. So, I was told I have to make the decision on pulling the plug. And I asked the doctor, I said, is there any hope at all? And he just basically was honest with me. He says, no, if he does make it, this is what this is pretty much what his life will be right here. A vegetable. So, not only has my dad not been there for me, you know, put me in all kinds of bullshit situations. Even though all that, you know, as it may be, I wouldn't change from the relationship that I have with my father, because it was good for the most part. But with that being said, I had the decision to make. I had to be the one to decide to pull his plug, and I said pull the plug, right? So we sit there. I couldn't be in the room when they did it because I just couldn't handle that. They pulled a plug on him. We all go home, you know, decide to come back in the morning. And we get a phone call that he passed, man, that he didn't make it. So then we get all the fun stuff of putting my father's funeral together, right? And again, for you guys who don't know, my dad passed away from a drug overdose. He passed away from doing pain pills and methadone. So I guess he went out the way he wanted to go out. I don't know. I don't think ideally that's what he wanted, but you know, it's a decision he made, and that's a lot of things in life, guys. So you make decisions, no matter what they are. There are repercussions, and there will be an outcome, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, anyways, it's time to bury my father, right? And I have a little bit of money, right? I'm working, you know, I got a family and kids, a house, car payments, and everything. So we go into the funeral home, and to get my dad cremated, it is $2,500, or to get him buried was $5,000. And as soon as the gentleman we were speaking to says that, everybody in my family turns and looks at me. Because I'm the working person, right? So I'm like, I was pissed. I said, fuck you guys, man. I said, here's what we're going to do right now. We're going to pretend, right? Since you guys like to live in this fucking make-believe life that you guys are living in, let's go ahead and pretend. Let me go ahead and get on your level. And this is what I said to him. This is God's honest truth. I said, we're going to pretend my dad is a pill, since you guys are all fucking pill heads in here. And we have to buy this pill. You guys want to get high? Well, my dad's the pill you need to get high. So you need to go out and make fucking money and do whatever you got to do and to help my dad get buried. And obviously, everybody turned back around. I was pissed, people, you know. So basically what it came down to is we came up with like $2,500. I think it was $2,500, maybe $3,000. With taxes and everything, we're about $2,500 short. And I go into a church, right? I go to a church, and I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I didn't know where else to go. Nobody else had money. Now, I could have got my dad cremated, yeah, but I really wanted to bury him. I don't know, man. I'm not like I guess I'm against I don't know what's the word that you're anti. I'm not against people getting cremated, right? So I wanted to get him buried. So I go into a church. I speak to the pastor, and I just tell him my story. And I said, is there any way you could help me out? Anything you can do to help me out? And the guy's like, I've never had anybody ask me this before. I was like, well, I don't know where else to go. And I don't know what else to do. And the pastor asked me, said, well, let me have the information to, I don't want to get, I'm getting a little worked up right now. I'm sorry. The pastor asked me for the information for the funeral home. Get your composure, noobs. They asked me for the phone number for the funeral home, and I give it to him, and he calls and talks to the gentleman running the funeral home, right? And gets off the phone, hangs it up, writes me a check, and says, God bless. I look at the check, and it was for the remaining amount of the burial fee. So, I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, for somebody to not even know you and to be able to help you out in a time of need, that especially that I was in. I mean, I didn't know what else to do, man. I've already been up there for like 10 days. My dad's been sitting on ice for 10 days, so it was crazy. But, you know, the good news is we got him buried. I got him buried how I wanted to get him buried. I put him in a suit. Everybody wanted to put my dad in a jean shorts and shirt. It's like, that's how your dad would want to go out. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what you guys think. I'm sorry, I'm kind of having a loss of words. I'm still kind of trying to collect myself, guys. So I had a little bit of a moment there. And I want to see him in a suit. I've never seen my dad in a suit, right? So I wanted to see the dude in a suit. So I put him in a suit, and was able to bury him. He definitely went well before his time. I'm really happy that he got to see my kids before he passed, but, you know, I still have those moments where I do miss him. I do want to talk to him. You know, we had some pretty cool conversations. He tried his best for what he knew, you know, and I accepted that, and that's why I forgave him. So I don't know, guys. I do apologize for getting a little worked up there at the end of this. It's emotional, man. You know, it is what it is. So if you guys enjoy it, you know, let me know, and maybe I'll do something like this about my mother, because it's another story in itself. So with that being said, you guys take it easy, man. Later.